My name is Rusty Coombs. I'm a lifelong motorcycle advocate, and this interview is one of a series of interviews I'm doing featuring relevant people in the motorcycle world. These videos are sponsored by the law offices of Richard Lester and Aid to Injured Motorcyclists. If you or anyone you know is injured in a motorcycle or car accident, call 1-800-531-2424 or go to their online address at www.onabike.com. In the last 40 years, they've recovered over $440 million for their clients. Free consultations 24/7. And remember, their motto is if we don't win, you don't pay. All right, let's get down to it. I've got a guest here today that has a list of accomplishments in the motorcycle world that few can rival. To name a few, in 2006, he was indicted into the Motorcycle Hall of Fame in Sturgis. In 2006, he was Cycle Source Magazine's Man of the Year. In 2016, he was Cycle Source Magazine Hall of Fame. Excuse me. In 2016, he was inducted into the Las Vegas Motorcycle Hall of Fame. In 2016, he received the Motorcycle Riders Foundation Aftermarket Award. Let's see, I got another page here. In 2017, he received the Sturgis Buffalo Chip Moxie Award for serving 21 years in business supporting the motorcycle industry. In 2018, he was inducted into the Motorcycle Riders Foundation Freedom Riders Hall of Fame. In 2023, he received the Thomas Paine Award from the Motorcycle Riders Foundation. He's a holder of 4 motorcycle land speed records. He was awarded the Silver Spoke Award by the National Coalition of Motorcyclists, not once, but twice. He's done multitudes of community work, charity work, and motorcycle rights activism, which we're going to talk about some of that today. And he served as the editor for the esteemed Easyrider magazine several times during the heyday of biker publications, as well as other ones. He's authored dozens of books and editorials. Let me introduce to you the one and only Keith Randall Ball, aka Bandit. What's up, brother?
Well, thank you, Rusty. Um, wow. Well, I got to tell you, I've only got 5 minutes because I got other shit to do.
You need about 5 days to list everything on your. I mean, your resume is 6 pages long, and it's not like you put a bunch of fat in there. I mean, it's all real stuff. You've got
Right.
a lot of accomplishments. I'm astounded, man.
Well, we went to Bonneville this year too. We set
Oh, I want
another
to talk
record.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to
Yeah.
talk about. But before we get into all that, I want to talk about how you got in the whole thing in the beginning. When was the first time that you were on 2 wheels? As a kid, doesn't matter how young.
Yeah. No, no. As a kid, of course, doodle bugs. My folks had a cabin in Trabuco Canyon, and we used to go up there and we got to ride doodle bugs a little bit. And then when I was 14, the kid next door was selling his Honda 55 Super Cub. And I went to my dad and I said, I'm thinking about buying this. And he said, I hate bikes and I hate bikers. And he told me a story. You'll love this story. So my dad drove this little Datsun pickup truck to work every day. He worked in the oil fields. He managed a machine shop. Um, and he drove the same way to work every day, drove the same way home. So one time he's driving to work and a guy goes by on a motorcycle. And he said that it was like this guy had just got this new Triumph and buzzed by him, you know. And he said that as the weeks went along, the guy went faster and faster and he started to change. The guy started to wear a leather jacket. He started to grow his hair out. He grew a beard. Well, one day he goes buzzing by my dad and he cuts in front of him and goes down. So my dad pulls over and he gets out of his little Datsun pickup truck and he walks up to the guy and he says, "Are you okay?" And the guy says, "Yeah, I think I am." He says, "Well, it serves you right, you son of a bitch." So that's how my dad felt about bikers and bikes. So when I went to him, he said, "Well," he said, "my code is that I'm not going to help you with a bike. I'm not going to pay for your insurance, not going to help you with a loan or any of that kind of stuff. You're on your own." So, I was on my own. I went and did it. I bought the bike, I paid for my insurance, and I went about starting to ride. Um, that first bike, I only had it for a little bit, and then I joined the service when I was 18 and graduated from high school, and went to electronic school and went to Vietnam, and I bought a '69 Sportster at the time in 1969. It was brand new.
Right on.
Yeah. So that was my first Harley, and I've been stuck ever since.
That's funny, man. My first one was a Sportster too. And
Yeah.
some chick hit me at an intersection. She did me a favor. I stepped up to a knucklehead.
Good, good. Well, I've got kind of a funny story. So I had this Sportster, and I fixed it up and extended the front end and did a few things, and and my wife at the time came out, and I was sitting on it, and she took my picture. It was a little Polaroid. So she handed me the picture, and I looked at the picture and I went, "Oh my God." I said, I got to get rid of this,
Too
it's too
small.
small.
Yeah.
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 And so I immediately did, and then bought a '66 Long Beach police bike. Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
on.
Chevrolet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the
Yeah.
ones, was it still black and white with all the gear, or was it all stripped down already?
No, it was somewhat stripped down and it had been painted, but it still had a tank shift.
Ah, damn.
Yeah. It was a
Was
tank shift
was it an old
60.
panhead
No,
or
no, it was a shovel head. They
okay.
still did tank shifts a little bit. It was sort of an accessory at the time.
Ah,
Yeah.
damn. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
same thing with me, man. It's like, the first bike, you're a teenager, you get a Sportster. I'm 6'5", you're about 6'5"-ish.
Right.
Yeah, and it's just we're not made for those things.
No.
We don't realize we think we're all cool, man. We look like we're a monkey on a football or whatever,
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Exactly. No, that didn't work. And like I've been fighting it ever since. You're always trying to build a bike. I'll never forget I built a Denver chopper because I thought finally I'm going to build a bike big enough that looks right for me. But then I didn't like the way it handled. So
I know.
I had to kind of come back a little bit tighter you know, but I'm still a stretch frame kind of guy, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and if it's a smaller bike, it's got high bars.
yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
makes up for it a little bit.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I know, man. It's like we build these bikes with these long backbones in them a lot of the time, and you're leaning forward uncomfortably,
Right.
and you go anywhere, it's horrible.
Yeah.
You got to find that spot. You know,
Yeah.
Same
Yeah.
thing with our feet. We like the highway pegs. We always used to stick them way out there, but a center control is much better and safer and more comfortable on a long run because you know how Harleys are. The wind will blow our knees out. You know what
Right.
I mean? Blows them outward. So you're always fighting that wind stress from that. And if you have center controls, it's a lot easier. Less
Right.
stress on it, more comfortable. Plus, if somebody cuts you off or you have to stand on your pegs, you can jump right up on your pegs.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
I was a big center control guy until probably I hit 70, and then it got to be a little awkward for me. But um but you're right. By having your feet underneath your ass, you're actually supporting your ass a little bit too. And
Yeah,
so it actually alleviates a little of that weight because when your legs are stuck out, well, they're not supporting your spine at all, you know.
yeah. That and your ass gets sore
Right.
as hell, man.
Right.
Those Sturgis runs, man. I remember a couple of times I would take hotel room pillows because my ass was so short. I mean, sore,
Yeah.
But even after a while, that doesn't work. Then you go on one cheek and then the other.
Right.
You
Right.
know? Then
Exactly.
you're glad you got a small Sportster tank, so you got to stop every 80 miles. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
So anyhow, what was next after that? You got out of the military. You got that panhead after the Sportster.
Right.
What happened next?
Well, actually, I had a few bikes. Um, First, when I got out of the service, I went to Long Beach City College on the GI Bill. So I was going to college, but I was working. Um, I was actually buying LAPD police bikes, used police bikes, fixing them up, and I started selling them. One of the guys I met while I was in the service, in my last stint in the service, was Andy Hansen. And Andy Hansen introduced me to Bob George. And Bob George is the guy who built the Easyriders streamliner. And
Ah,
he started teaching me how to build engines. And here I am, like 21 or something like that, and I'm dragging a Sun and Hone into my little single car garage, and I'm trying to rebuild engines. So I started doing that, and I rebuilt a few engines, and then I went to work for a bike shop, U.S. Choppers. I think it was on Imperial Highway, and I worked there for a little while. And while I was working there, I was helping a friend of mine in Belmont Shore build a knucklehead. It was a nice looking bike. And just at that time, Easy Riders magazine came out. And somebody came to my house and said, "Here, there's this new magazine." So I looked at that magazine and I thought, I wrote a little card to the editor of the magazine. I said, I just helped the guy build this nice looking knucklehead. You might want to check it out. Well, their offices were in Seal Beach. And as you know, that's like 5 miles from Belmont Shore and Naples Island. And so Lou Kimsey actually came over to this guy's garage and checked out his bike. But he looked at my shovel head, which was now like an 83-inch. It had UL wheels in it, um, shovel head rat bike. I mean, it had an SU carburetor on it,
oh yeah.
um, that stuck out alongside the front head, you
Oh
know.
man.
Eh,
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
it was a bitchin' bike, but it was just a rat bike. It was all black. I ran an open primary, but I made this pulled metal shield to cover the primary,
Was it
and
an open chain?
yeah, open
Yeah.
chain.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And so he looked at that and he said, "Oh, I got to feature that. I got to feature that." So
Yeah.
so we met in Seal Beach, near where right where Second Street hits PCH. And it used to be across the street there, it used to be oil fields. And we met in the oil fields and they featured my bike. And while I was there, Lou Kimsey got to talking to me. And I told him I kind of wasn't happy with the way these guys at the shop treated their customers. They, you'll love this. So these guys some guy'd come over and say, "Oh, I need my transmission looked at, and I need this and I need that." And the guy'd say, "Oh yeah, we'll do that for like a couple of $100." Well, the next thing you know, this guy's got a bill for $800, you know.
Yeah.
And I didn't care for that. So I told Lou, he said, so Lou asked me to come over to the offices and he offered me a job, $50 a week, being the manager of a bait. And they had just started a bait. I started to work on the third issue of Easy Riders, and they had just started it. And I was sort of the liaison. And then I worked with guys all over the country to build chapters. And there are still chapters. We built, I think, 28 chapters, state chapters.
Wow.
And I would just work with these guys, and as we'd get more information about helmet laws and things, we would send it out to these guys, and just keep them going any way we could. And a lot of these guys became masters of legislative um, situations, and they knew all their politicians. They
Yeah.
didn't have any problem stepping up to the state capitol and
Yep.
discussing it with somebody. I was really proud of these guys.
Yeah, Bates done really well, man. I've interviewed a bunch of those guys, and
Oh,
they're
great.
they're really all over it. I
Yeah,
didn't know you were in the beginning of that.
right, right at the very
Yeah,
beginning of it.
that's
Yeah,
really important. A lot of the guys out there don't realize what's going on behind the scenes,
right,
and there's guys like you and them out there putting a lot of time out to save our rights from
right,
government intrusion. You know,
right,
just
right,
like that right to repair thing that you're working on right now.
right.
Why don't
The
you why don't
right to
you run that down?
repair,
That thing's
well,
pretty important.
right to repair, SEMA is working very hard on that. You know about SEMA, right?
Yeah,
Um,
explain it for the viewers if you don't mind.
SEMA is basically the aftermarket group for the automotive guys, for the custom car guys. and they run that major SEMA show,
Yeah.
which is massive, one of the biggest shows in the world, car show in Las Vegas every year. And actually, at one point, I went to them to see if they'd set up an aftermarket motorcycle arm within SEMA. Um, they were, you're going to love this. They were kind of afraid of me. They were afraid I was going to push them to fight helmet laws. And a lot of people are very sketchy about that
Sure.
business. And but they have grown to be more legislatively oriented, and the right to repair is a big one for them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
because that's for
and
cars and motorcycles. That's for everything.
that's
Yeah.
for everybody.
Yeah.
But I mean that goes that goes. I've been a big advocate um, for the fossil fuel industry in some respects. I started reading about this whole climate change deal and basically discovered it was a scam.
Yeah, totally.
And it was a scam to me by Al Gore to make money.
Yeah.
And it spread all over the world and it became this thing. And it to me today, it still blows my mind why nobody, and I'm talking nobody, will actually put a panel together, go on television and explain the issues
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Blow the lid
clear
off
the
of it.
air. Yeah, and clear the air.
Yeah.
Um, it's all breaking down now, but still, to me, for kids all over this planet, somebody should do that and explain to them where these people were coming from, why they were wrong, why there's nothing wrong with CO2 and we need more CO2.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and explain to them the value of fossil fuels for everything, including medicine. So
Plastic, your cell phone, the computer's
yeah,
wrong.
I know
Everything.
everything.
Yeah.
It's so absurd. It's so
Yeah.
ridiculous. Yeah,
Yeah.
it astounds me in this day and age. I mean, we live in what is considered this high-tech world where we know everything and we're studying everything and we have access to all this information and these people hide. They
And they
hide
hide the
behind.
information from us.
Yes,
They
exactly.
control the media,
They control. Yeah.
and I mean, it's crazy. They're manipulating thought.
Oh,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Right down to school kids.
Yeah.
I've become involved with this. Well, the MRF, the Motorcycle Riders Foundation, has been a real strong advocate of the right to repair movement. Um, and I sort of went outside that, the motorcycle or the sort of the motorcycle legislative arm, and reached out to guys who fight the whole notion of climate change. And there's
Good.
one group called the CO2 Coalition. There's actually several. And um, there's a guy named Alex Epstein that just writes wonderful articles against the whole climate change deal and has written several books, and I've read them. Michael Schellenberger. But the CO2 Coalition has actually got them, and Clintel, which is out of Canada, has 2,000 scientists who signed a declaration that there is no climate alarm.
Yeah.
There is no fear of climate change. Um, so there's some really sharp people out there, and there's information. Actually, the CO2 Coalition has now created packets to go to schools to teach kids what the
Nice.
truth is about CO2. Yeah,
I think now the way things are going, we're going to see some changes where the truth's coming out, like you said, about a lot of this kind of stuff. And it needs
absolutely.
to, man. They've went so far overboard with it's so ridiculous,
I
you know?
know. I know. I just read a Michael Schellenberger report, and he was talking about all this woke stuff.
Yeah.
And he's explaining this stuff. And I wrote him a comment. I said, you've got to get to the end of a paragraph and say to yourself, what are these people doing? They were trying to destroy our country.
Yeah.
I mean, bottom
Absolutely.
line, none of their policies worked.
Nope.
Nothing worked. It was all to destroy our country. And I got to tell you, Rusty, I get kind of choked up over this. I'm really proud of Americans. This election, to
Yeah.
me,
Yeah. Me too.
people stepped up. And
Yeah.
no matter what people were feeding them or beating them with or bullying them with, they stepped up and they voted. And
Damn right, man.
man, I mean, I'm so excited, that.
They went after the Amish people back there, right? In Pennsylvania, and they were putting them out of business and doing all this nasty stuff. They said, hell with this, man. They all got out and voted.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that in the heart of hearts, well, I know within the heart of hearts of Americans, they knew it was wrong and they stepped up. And like I said, I'm just really so proud.
Yeah, me too. Hey, but to
Yeah.
get back to the right of repair, let's explain what that does to people. So if you've got motorcycles, cars, whatever, the government was trying to get in the middle of it, so you can't even work on your own vehicles, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, it's almost worse than that. Because motorcycles and cars have computers in them. The car industry, the motorcycle industry wanted to control that software within the computers. Um, and as you know, the CARB, California Air Resources Board, they basically wanted to put us out of business. They wanted to put everybody out of business, all behind their climate change agenda. Um, so actually, just the other day, the Motorcycle Riders Foundation was instrumental in getting CARB to drop their mandate for everybody to shift electric.
Right on.
That's pretty significant. And, guys all over the country can join the Motorcycle Riders Foundation. I always tell them, join your local rights group or join the Motorcycle Riders Foundation, and you'll be hooked up. You'll know what's going on all over the country,
Yeah,
all
they
over the
send
world.
letters out,
Oh, yeah,
newsletters. They keep people up on
absolutely.
all that.
And these guys actually have lobbyists in Washington,
Yeah.
D.C. They're out pounding the pavement trying to get things done,
Yeah.
and they did. They were successful with CARB. And I went to some CARB meetings. I'll bet you did too at times. Um, and they're, you know, it's so I went to a meeting in Las Vegas at a SEMA show, and it was filled full of guys. Now it was mostly car guys, and it was just like wall to wall with guys. And these women came in, and it's really not has nothing to do with women, but it was like these were like high school principals. They came in and lectured to these guys that you cannot do this, you cannot do that, you cannot do this, you cannot modify a car and then have it on the highway. We're coming after you. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you something that you've experienced. That room was silent. Nobody wanted to raise their hand because they were afraid. They were afraid
Yeah,
these
they'll come
people were going
after you.
to they were going to send
Yeah.
somebody to their shop and put them out of
Yeah.
business.
No, I know.
And
I've had it done.
yeah,
They came through what about 2005, 6 or 7. They came here in California and they went through they were after one of my bikes that Jesse built for me, and then they went after a bunch of his. He had to do a whole bunch of stuff to get it straight, and I had an attorney at the time for all that because I'm,
mhm,
I'm a motorcycle manufacturer and I've got CARB and EPA.
right,
But gosh, damn, it's just crazy, and it's
yeah,
it's beyond that now.
right, right.
You
No,
know,
it's
and the thing is, they push this electric stuff, and look, I'm all about performance. I don't care what it's powered by. I'm about performance. But when it
right,
comes to this dumbass stuff they're doing, it's ridiculous. You know what I
right,
mean? And so you get an electric car. The pollution that's created to make one battery for one
right,
car is
right.
insane.
Yeah,
You would have to drive that electric car for what, 8 years or something just to equalize the destruction it did with CO2 and all that. You know what I mean? So it's all bullshit and it's all about money. They pay scientists, as you know, the
hmm,
ones that are going to give them the report they want to hear.
right, sure.
Same thing with the health and everything else, man. It's like these
Mhm.
globalist weirdos with all this stuff. They want to destroy. all the countries have one world order. And basically, their doctrine, if you look at it, and I know you are, is
Right.
communist doctrine.
Right.
Complete
Right.
control of everything that you say, read, censorship across the board.
Right.
But then they even go further and they got these dudes wearing dresses going into kindergarten classes talking to our kids.
Yeah.
That when they did that, they took people that were on the fence about all of it and said, hey, whoa, wait a minute, this
Oh,
ain't happening.
yeah. Yeah. No, it was just insane. The whole thing's insane. But the right to repair, it goes so deep, and the any success in that effort is is tremendous. I mean, and if people follow the MRF, they'll find out what's going on.
Well, I think it's probably this whole thing they're doing with this is got to fall apart. I mean, you would take all the aftermarket industries and crush them. you
Right.
know, I mean,
Right.
just it's gone.
Right.
I mean, and they've already been doing that with a lot of stuff anyway. But yeah, I'm seeing a big reversal on a lot of this
Right.
stuff.
It's going to take some hard work. It's going to take, my sort of my mantra for our government is honesty and integrity. I
Yes.
want them to be honest and I want them to have integrity with everything. I mean, it's absurd. You want your citizens to be honest, right? You don't want them to be criminals, but the entire government's a
Yeah. Oh yeah.
criminal operation.
Absolutely.
It's
Everybody,
like,
even Reagan and presidents are saying you can't trust the government,
yeah,
and they're so bloated now.
I know.
You know, Elon and those guys are going in there and they're
Yeah,
getting into it, and
yeah,
they're looking at like 2 trillion a year that they could cut in just waste.
right.
There's like one agency that has 42,000 employees. I think it's Social Security that just they don't even come to work.
No,
They work from home, which
right.
that's going to be, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, exactly. Wow. No, I'm really looking forward to Elon and Vivek
yes,
cleaning house, and I really want them to be I want them to be compassionate to the people who've created this, but I want them to be honest. And I want them to come forth with all the facts about it and lay it out. I want the public to know what's been going on. And
yeah, and
so
that's
we
the
can
thing. It
so we
hasn't
can
been like
straighten
that.
up. Yeah. You
Everything has been whatever we hear is massaged, and they've had control of it worldwide. 85% of the media is putting
right.
out the same narrative word for word.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's crazy.
They're complaining about people speaking the truth and wanting to shut it down.
Yeah. Oh no, they want censorship, which is the first thing the Nazis did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they took
Yeah.
away the guns. They
Yeah.
they
Took away
censored
the
everything,
guns,
and they
censored
put
people.
this fear into everybody.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? It's all
Yeah.
the same tactics
It's the
on all that.
same. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, we're going to
So
see some
hopefully we're
cool
gonna
stuff.
see that reversal, and people are gonna be behind it, and um, and we're gonna have a more honest government moving forward.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just want to tell you, man, I want to thank you for your service,
Oh, thank you.
back in Vietnam and all that.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
And the contributions you've made is just incredible, man. I mean, I'm looking at your list here. There's a full page of print on you. I mean, it's like where do we start?
Right.
We're going to
Right.
have to do specific interviews just on certain subject matter because in this interview, there's no way we could cover everything about you. You know?
Well, I've just been very fortunate in my life to be able to do all the things I've been able to do. It's just been sort of amazing, and now I'm on the board of directors of the Sturgis Motorcycle Museum, and I'm really
Cool stuff.
hoping to bring, um, you know, to help the museum, to enlarge the museum. I'd like it to be a world-class museum. I mean, Sturgis, it's the epicenter of the
Yeah,
motorcycle industry worldwide.
that
And
should be the premier museum for motorcycles.
exactly, exactly. And so we're working on that. Um, we have a Hall of Fame that's pretty tremendous, thanks to Keith Terry. He's worked hard on it. Um, yeah, it's an interesting project. I'm on the board of directors, so there's 17 of us. Since I've been on the board, I helped Ari get on the board. Marilyn Stemp, who used to do
Oh,
Ironworks
Maryland? Yeah.
magazine, is on the board, and talk about somebody who's involved in the
Uh,
industry. She's in it, you know. Um, and Steve Peel, who worked with the factory for 20 years. He's on the board now. We got a really great board and we're doing great things. And I'm pretty excited about the future of the museum and Sturgis. Um, and I hope that it helps the motorcycle industry worldwide. You
yeah,
know, every guy who has an antique motorcycle, if you ask him, he wants his bike in the Sturgis Museum.
yeah, you know what? I wanted to ask you a question about that. I was there a couple of years ago, and they have some pretty cool stuff there. But do they keep the stuff there year round, or do they move it out and bring it back every year?
Um, Exhibits are shifted, from time to time.
Okay.
An exhibit may last a couple of years, and then usually it's shifted.
Uh,
They have storage places that they'll keep bikes and they'll move them in and out. And we've got one of the things that's really important to the museum is that just recently the Mike Partee, Tish, his daughter, has donated two Mike Partee bikes to the museum. And that means we can display them and then ultimately sell them to raise money to keep the museum going. So,
wow.
um, yeah, we're reaching out to people all over the world, to be involved in the museum and help us out.
That's cool. And you live there now, right?
Yes, I live in Boulder Canyon, which is right next to Sturgis and right next to Deadwood. Yeah.
Oh man, that's nice.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love every day out here. It's snowing today. It's amazing.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And what sort of blows me away is that the social aspects, the motorcycle, I joke that if you walk down the street and you knock on every door, one door will be a cowboy, the next door will be a biker. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's stuff going on all the time with the museum, with the hamsters are here, I mean, it's a blast.
And it's
Oh, and
not
a lot
like,
of,
yeah, it's not all just Sturgis, man. I mean, it's going on year round. I see
right,
events online. I keep track of a lot of stuff through the Buffalo Chip website and all. There's parties and things going on, Deadwood and
right,
all the time.
right, absolutely.
That's a beautiful area of Deadwood too.
Yeah. And now I have a shop on Main Street in Deadwood, which used to be owned by Richard Lester.
Yeah, Richard was telling me, I saw some pictures. That thing's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, it's a kick.
You got some
It's a
nice
kick.
toys in there too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm when my buddies would ask me, why the hell are you buying a building in Sturgis? And they'd say, well, what are you going to put in it? I said, I'm putting all my shit in it. All the stuff I've had for 40 years and motorcycles and artwork and it's just a blast,
But
So
your
it's like
stuff
an
is
antique
not just
store.
like a lot of guys, they got a bunch of stuff, it's just garbage, but you've got
Right,
collectible, everything you kept. I mean,
right.
there's some badass stuff. You got a museum of your own.
Right, right. But it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And the people around here are just amazing. I mean, I get guys that come in here. There's one guy came in, he's a Vietnam veteran. He was shot out of a helicopter. He's part American Indian. Um, he comes in and he's like wearing this jacket that's absolutely gorgeous, leather, and it's got beads on it, sort of an Indian style jacket. He's wearing moccasins and I wish I could think of this term, the way they treat the leather makes it so soft. It's like cashmere, it's just beautiful. And he said he'll come in and teach us how to make moccasins. What a cool deal, so
So he
yeah,
wears, does he actually wear the moccasins instead of regular shoes every day?
yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely.
he's got to have like for winter walking in the snow, he's got to have some heavy
Oh,
duty,
sure.
like
Yeah,
different ones,
absolutely.
right? Summer and
Right.
winter moccasins
Yeah,
kind of.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. The guy is just cool and he's just so knowledgeable. And he's always willing to share, So we have lots of guys like that, a lot of talented guys. Daniel James is now sort of our exclusive artist, fine artist, within our shop, and he's just an amazing guy. I mean, he's just so talented, and so we really look forward to. He did something. I must share it with you. He did a painting of our salt torpedo that we set our record with in Bonneville, and
Whoa.
it's pretty incredible. Yeah.
Now, that was going to be my next subject with you. I want to ask you some of that because I mean, you've got a lot of years in Bonneville and you've got those four records. Let's talk about
Yeah.
that a little bit. How'd you get involved in that?
Well, actually, and this is something that I like to share with kids that, when kids are like snarky and they're hitting their teenage years and they're not paying attention, you know, what they miss is the relationships that they could build and the people they meet. And maybe they're old farts like you and me, but we've got a lot of knowledge, we've got a lot of stuff to share with people. And if we're willing to share it, they need to pay attention. And believe me, when they get to be 50 years old, they'll go, "Oh shit, I should have paid attention to that guy." I'm in a jam, I need something, I need to know how to do something. He did it all day long, things like that. So actually in 1971, about then, was when I met Andy Hansen, who had HES Performance Products, and I helped him get that started. He did those billet aluminum clutch plates for big twins for years and years. Um, um, he introduced me to Bob George. Bob George started teaching me how to build engines. We kind of became friends. Um, I I went to the drag strip one time and he had this dual shovel head rigid frame dragster thing, and he popped the clutch and all the chains broke. They
Ooh,
just snapped,
geez.
you know. So anyway, Bob came to me one time, and I knew he was building a streamliner for Bonneville, but here I'm 22 years old, I'm partying, chasing, you know, and and just having a good time. But I'd go by and see him once in a while, and him and Andy came to me and said, "Could you introduce us to Joe Teresi, who owned a Jammer Cycle? We need a sponsor, so we can go back to Bonneville." So I set up a meeting and introduced them to Joe Teresi, and it became the Jammer Streamliner, and then ultimately the Easyriders Streamliner. And when it was the Jammer Streamliner, again, I was editing the magazines and I was doing a lot of work, and so I didn't go to Bonneville. But when it became the Easyrider Streamliner, I got involved in the team. We went to Bonneville the first year and we set a record that will probably stand forever for, two 90-inch shovel heads doing 284 miles an hour. The next year we went out and did 321, and we broke the record that was, I think it was dual Kawasaki's, and the guy's name slips my brain. Um, it'll come to me. Um, he set the record for it 314 miles an hour, and we broke it that year, 1990, 321.5 miles an hour. We held the record for 16 years.
Now,
Okay.
the thing is that people don't understand is this isn't just one pass and this isn't just touching that and slowing down. You've got to maintain it for a mile or something, right?
Well,
Each
well,
pass
no, not exactly, but you have to go back
and do
and
it
make another pass. And
same
it's the
direction or the different direction.
a different direction, the opposite
Okay.
direction. You have to make another pass within 2 hours, and then it's the average of the two
The
records.
average. Okay.
Yeah. And so, like, if you break down at the end of that pass, well, you're done. You know,
Yeah, you
you've got to
guys.
be able to do it twice, basically.
And
You
you were
know,
running shovel heads and getting that kind of speed?
yes,
Were they
90,
running on
90-inch shovel heads.
were they
Yeah.
on like alcohol or
Oh, I'm sure they were on the
yeah,
the highest fuel, and I don't know that we ran nitrous. I don't think so. You know,
yeah,
but so much of Bonneville is aerodynamics.
Yeah,
It's all about slipping through the air.
no
And
doubt. No doubt.
believe me, that when in 2006, when I went back to Bonneville for the first time, I had built a John Reed design frame that he had done for custom chrome, and I put a 120-inch panhead engine in it. So I called it, because it was all rubber mounted, it was like an FXR
Okay.
style, but it was almost like a sport bike. Had a little fairing on the front, and and I said, well, let's go to Bonneville and see what it'll do. And so we went to Bonneville, and I did. Valerie Thompson rode the bike and did 152 miles an hour with that bike, and I was completely blown away. But what really caught me was when I went into, you go into this impound yard when you're done, and they take the heads off and they measure your cylinder, your bore and stroke to ensure that you weren't lying about your how many
Cubic inch
cc's
long. Yeah.
it was. Yeah. And so I'm in that, and two things happened. One, the guy came out to measure the cylinder, and he said, "Man, I need bigger tools." Because the cylinder in that thing, 120-inch panhead, was massive, you know. And so he went to get larger tools. And as he was doing that, I'm looking around at the other bikes that are being inspected, and it'd blow your mind. Like there'll be a bike that's 75 cc that does 125 miles an hour just because of its aerodynamics.
Aerodynamics.
You know,
Yeah,
I mean, you can pile the power into this thing, but if you don't have the aerodynamics, you're slowing yourself down.
absolutely. You
Yeah,
know, let me tell you, in aeronautics, with the fighters in World War II and stuff,
right,
they'd have these R 2800 Pratt and Whitneys in some of these radials and the plane would do, 400 miles an hour or whatever with 2,000 horsepower. So they put a 3350 on it, and they got another, or a 4360 even, and they've got another 1,000 horsepower with the same fuselage and
right,
aerodynamics. They only
right.
gained 15 miles an hour with another
Wow.
1,000 horsepower because,
Exactly.
like you were saying, all aerodynamics.
Exactly, exactly. So what I did that year is I went home and I said, okay, I'm building another one, but I'm going to build it as sleek as I possibly can. And I built another 120-inch panhead. I put nitrous on it. We didn't use the nitrous, and we went out and we did 161 miles an hour or something like that. We set another record, uh, but and Valerie Thompson wrote it, and she's a small girl, and she was stretched out, and I had her almost laying down like a rolly free um, when he rode that bike back in the 40s, and he was just laying with his swim trunks, laying on the seat, trying to be as aerodynamic as possible. So we did that, and we had bad salt conditions that year, and upped our record. We didn't have a bigger engine, but just because we made it more aerodynamic, it went another 10 miles an hour faster. Um, so actually, Barry Wardlaw now has that bike. He took it, it was in the Sturgis Museum. He took it out of the museum, and uh, he said he wanted to pump up the power on it and take it back to Bonneville. And I said, go for it. Well, right away he got into the aerodynamics, and he took it to a wind tunnel, and he did a whole bunch of testing in a wind tunnel. And so we'll see what he does. But it's exciting. I want to see what he does and what he accomplishes, from
So he's going to use the old one, but he's going to improve a little bit on the aerodynamics and a lot on the power, probably, right?
Uh, yeah, that was sort of our notion, is that he would pump up the power and see what he could do, in better salt conditions. But he actually wants to change the fairing. I just did a little fairing around the triple trees. He wants to change that fairing and have it come out over the handlebars a little bit more. And in the front, I actually put the between the down tubes, I put a nitrous bottle there. And I thought that will kind of make the air go around it. Well, he wants to put a little cowling around around the nitrous bottle. And so let's see what happens. It's going to be exciting.
Hey, did you find that boat tail designs helped with the aerodynamics? You know,
Uh,
how the air flows kind of like a torpedo almost and goes back.
right. Well, so that's sort of what I did with mine is that I
Uh-huh.
just made it slim and sleek. I didn't make anything come up. I didn't I did that on the Salt Torpedo because I had to. I had the way the frame and everything was configured, and I had to run a parachute. The Salt Torpedo is theoretically the first streamlined trike. And uh, we had to we had to put a parachute in the back of it. We
Yeah.
never used it this year because really weren't doing those speeds yet. But but we had to have a working parachute in the back of it. So I had to create a box at the back. So I created a fin over the box, and then it kind of dipped down. And let me get you a picture.
Amazing, amazing talent, man. Four Bonneville records. That's incredible. You know what I mean? And he's got the one with the trike. So he's going to be getting that one right
Ready?
now, I
You
think.
ready?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Revert. Okay. Oh, yeah.
That's that's Micah McCluskey
Oh, Micah. Hey.
at Bonneville this year. He was our pilot.
Right on, man.
Here's the piece of art that Daniel James did.
Bring it up just a little bit. There you go. So that was before it was built, huh?
Uh,
Not after.
no, both of these are done after.
Okay.
This was this was at Bonneville this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Micah's a great guy, man. I talked to him a little bit about his racing. He's down with it. He's also doing those old bikes. They do the thing cross
Yeah.
country with
Oh yeah, he's doing the great race,
yeah.
time balls. Yeah.
That's
He's
crazy, man.
a tremendous mechanic.
Yeah. Yeah, he talked
Yeah.
about some of the days back when he got into it and started
Yeah.
building motors and
Right.
deal.
Yeah.
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 Right on, man. Well,
Yeah.
tell you what, before we wrap it up, you want to add anything else in?
Well, in the future, we could talk a little bit more about the museum. Um, I could tell this whole story about the Bonneville going to Bonneville this year. Yeah, we had a blast. And going to Bonneville this year was scary because I built that bike. I built that over a 10-year period. Um, and we took it to Bonneville. This time was the first time. We didn't know how it would handle. I mean, we had done some little test runs. We actually rolled it one time. Um, uh,
That one in the picture with Micah? You rolled
yeah,
it.
we rolled it.
How did it
Fortunately,
sound?
it didn't have the top on it. You know,
Yeah.
it would have been a mess if we had the top on it. But we had done just a couple of little test runs. We did one right out here by the Buffalo Chip, and it was really successful. Um, and so we go out to Bonneville, and you go through scrutineering at Bonneville. So I had no idea that I'd pass. I tried to read every book about regulations from FEMA to the SCTA to the AMA, the Streamliner guide, you name it. I read them all. I read them twice. I read them three times, and I would keep finding little things and trying to make it so that I'd pass scrutineering and be able to make a run. So we went out there, and we first thing we did was so we're in scrutineering, and the judge or whatever you want to call him, the scrutineer is looking at everything, and he looks at the steering wheel, and it's a dragster like steering wheel thing, little aluminum thing, and
Kind of like a
uh,
yoke on an airplane,
yeah, well, it just comes out at you, and then has two little
handles
handles.
on both sides.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, and I got it from like Speedway or something. It's a dragster deal.
Uh-huh.
So, so the guy pulls out a tape measure and measures it. He goes, "Oh, this isn't wide enough, Keith." And he looks at me and I'm thinking, oh, we're screwed. We're done. We're cooked. How are we going to make this thing wider? So he said, but I'm not going to stop you from racing this year. You just got to keep that in mind for next year. I was like, my heart's racing, I'm just
Yeah, no
so
kidding.
anyway, there was a few things like that, but they all said, you might want to do this next time or this. We go out and make a pass. Now, Micah's, he's at the helm. He's in the pilot, and I'm coaching him. I said, Micah, we don't know how this thing's going to handle. We just don't know. So I said, you got to take it real easy the first pass. So he goes out, and everybody there is just blown away by the salt torpedo. They're just like, wow, look at that. And so he makes a pass, and he comes to the end of the pass. He did 127 miles an hour, and he said, Keith, it handled like a dream. So then we made another pass that day, 144 miles an hour, and we set our first record. And the next day we went out, we adjusted the chain, we did a few little things, and we did 153 miles an hour. And then he started having it. It stormed the night before, so the salt was a little wet. Guys were going down on their motorcycles, and it got a little squirrely. Um, and he was able to do 146 or something. And we had an average of 147.6. Um, and we raised our record by 10 miles. I mean, that was like unheard of. We were out there 3 days. We packed up and went home. You know,
Wow.
I
And
was,
what engine are you running in that?
it's a 135-inch Jim's twin cam, and
One of
the
the newer
engine.
ones?
No, I've had that engine for like 10 years.
Oh, okay. Is it based on
Um,
the Evo design or twin cam?
twin cam. It's a twin
Okay.
cam. But it ran like a dream. And Micah was never able to get to top speed. So we don't know what that thing's capable of.
Going
We
next
gotta
year?
we gotta really look at the two. Well, Micah really wants to go next year. I'm really thinking, man, we need a younger crew. Our our crew was Micah was 75, I'm 76. A buddy of mine was with me. He's 77, and then we had a teenager, 57. So,
Oh man.
so that was it. So I told my son, I said, Frank, you got to get a group of guys together. You guys take it out.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw some pictures of you guys hanging out back at your place there, Frank and you and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
You gonna get them into that? Maybe get
Yeah.
them into racing?
Well, Frank, well, we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see if they step up and really want to get involved in it.
Heck yeah, man. That'd
It's
be
a
cool.
little it's a little bit of a commitment, as you know. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A lot of travel, a lot of time. Isn't he
right.
in Texas or somewhere now?
Frank is in Texas at All Saints Tattoo.
Yeah.
Frankie has his own tattoo parlor right down in the heart of Venice. And yeah, they're doing great. They're really doing
I'll
great.
tell you what, he's good, man. About I don't know, a number 15 years ago, he did a bunch of work for me, and man, his work is good. I got
Frankie or Frank?
Frank.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he did a bunch, and
yeah.
people, I get a lot of compliments on his work all the time.
Hmm. Yeah. No, they're both talented artists. I can't wait for them to actually get into doing paintings. And they do paint once in a while.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right on. All right, brother. Well, I'm gonna close her down for right now, man. I really appreciate you coming here. And what we're gonna have to do though is you have so much stuff. We're gonna do some like videos just zeroing in on some of your stuff that you're
Okay,
doing.
you got it.
And
Anytime, Rusty.
yeah, man, you too. Really
Yeah.
good, okay? And
All right, you too.
keep doing that bikers' rights stuff, man. It's like there's not a lot of guys like you out there, and we need you doing it, man.
Well,
Really
we
appreciate it.
can't, you know the deal. You can't ever give up. You can't ever give in.
You're the right man. All right.
All
Talk to
right.
you later, bro.
Take
Yeah.
care.